I wanted to talk about why Druids are going to be such a key class and so helpful to everyone, especially if you play it as a group, which a lot of people will be. They have friends to play with, or playing solo. If you're going Druid, you're definitely not going to be disappointed. But I wanted to talk about why Druids are going to be so useful and such a valuable class in team play. And that is because Druids will help yourself and your teammates incredibly. You can go very tanky as well as very functional in terms of debuffs as well as buffs for your team and other bonuses to just help your team overall do more damage as well as survivability. There is a lot of items you can get from the codex pretty early in the game that you can get to make your defensive skills apply to your teammates, as well as provide some debuffs such as crowd control to the enemy, and it's very easy to use that, and you'll very much be able to help your teammates. This is going to be very crucial for hardcore play as well as softcore, especially for solo play. So over here I have a quick list of some items that might help, as well as the skills. So let's go over the skills. First of all, you guys should know what an enemy being vulnerable is. You could actually also be vulnerable, but essentially what that does is reduce your damage protection by 20%. So if an enemy is vulnerable, they will take 20% more damage from you. And look at this, Storm Strike is one of the best basic attacks in the game based on the effects here. Not only do you gain 25% damage reduction, which is an insane amount from a basic attack, you also will be able to immobilize enemies, 15% chance, which is pretty common, especially in gameplay so far. I've noticed it occurs pretty often, and more importantly, 50% chance to make enemies vulnerable. That is a huge buff for you and your team to just mow down enemies. 20% extra damage just like that off of your initial levels. By level 3 or 4, you'll be able to effectively use that, as you want to use a core skill early on in the game. So, level 1, you start with Storm Strike. Level 2, you go with Landslide or another core skill that you might decide. However, Earth skills are quite easy to increase the effectiveness of, especially with the Codex and early game. So most likely you would want to start with Landslide. A lot of other people have tried Tread early in the game. Pulverize is good as well, but it's going to be more effective once you get the Pulverize aspects. So I would definitely save that for that time. Once you can make Pulverize an Earth skill and increase the damage of Pulverize with the other aspects, I would switch from Landslide to Pulverize. In my opinion, I feel like Pulverize is a lot more fun than Landslide. You can also try Lightning Storm. This has an 8% chance to immobilize enemies as well, and this is an area of effect skill. So it's a good chance to definitely clear mobs and elites, especially early in the game when damage output is slow. But it will also stack on bosses to get that stagger bar full to give them a full CC as well. So here, this is just assuming we're taking Terramounts for Landslide. Then if you come to our defensive skill tree, as you can see, a lot of them are very useful. They are very stackable and very helpful for your enemies. Taking Earthen Bulwark is just a good one for having that Unstoppable. Unstoppable is very important for protecting yourself because the CC, fears, stuns in this game are very damaging and can get you killed. So in hardcore, you definitely want to take this. Regardless, softcore or hardcore, you're going to want to be tanky. You want to be survivable. The longer you're dead, the less damage and less speed you're going to be running through that campaign and through leveling and dungeons in general. So you're not going to want to die, of course. And of course, it's not as important in softcore as it is in hardcore, but regardless, it is still very important. So with Earthen Bulwark, you can take some buffs to increase the length of the active skill. That means you're unstoppable that whole time. For example, you can take boots, such as Ghostwalker Aspect, very good, and in the Codex, very easy to get. It's in Skazglen, the second act of the game. So while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after, you get increased move speed and unhindered through enemies. Then you can also take Aspect of the Mending Stone, which is in the Codex as well, to increase your Earthen Bulwark by 6 seconds. So very effective and a very good way for you to run around, do damage, and survive. And so while running around, of course, being alive, you can do up to, I think, 15% physical and non-physical damage reduction with this item, as well as you will be able to, give yourself damage reduction or knock them back and make them vulnerable. So once again, another guarantee that enemies will be vulnerable, and of course that will help other people, and you'll also be slowing them down with this skill here. That one will pair very well with Aspect of Cyclonic Force. So this one, you'll get physical damage as well, and to apply to all nearby allies. Very helpful as well for tankiness overall. A lot of other skills such as Rogue, Necromancer, Sork, they might not be as tanky. There's a lot of items that will actually help you and you will benefit and produce more damage by going with these defensive skills. So it's really useful and really cool. Then you could obviously take Blood Howl. So Blood Howl and Cyclone Armor are two very good defensive skills that will help your team. And this one here, you can gain 20% life at just level 1. And then you can also increase attack speed or Spirit. I don't know if this skill for other classes will generate the primary resource, but regardless, you can generate Spirit or attack speed for everyone in your party, and that goes well with Night Howler's aspect over here to increase your crit strike chance. So getting it from the codex, that's 5%, but if you get it from a drop, you can get up to 10%, and if it's in the amulet slot, you will be getting 15% crit strike chance, which will be an insane amount of damage, especially in a group of 4 people. This will also work with your companions, and companions can act as a meat shield and more passive damage. You won't need to do much, and you won't need to be using a lot of resource for that. So that is an awesome way to help your team as well as heal them, which is great. Then we come to Debilitating Roar. This is just a debuff for the enemies, so against bosses and other monsters, 70% damage dealt reduction. So that's an insane amount of damage reduction. So if anything, if you get into some dicey moments, you pop that, and those enemies are not going to do any damage and not going to kill anyone. You also fortify yourself and slow the enemies. So you are doing a lot of debuffs, a lot of slows. And on top of that, if anything is down, you can always take Aspect of Quicksand to damage them with Earth Skills to slow the enemy as well. A lot of classes, including Druids, are able to do more damage to slowed enemies or CC'd enemies, as well as there are some aspects that can help do more damage to those CC'd enemies, and that will apply to every single class. Another very useful item here is Aspect of the Dark Howl, and that will help immobilize enemies with using Debilitating Roar. Once again, another helpful skill to help yourself and others. You can also take Hurricane. This is a very good utility skill. It's obviously not meant to do a lot of damage, but you can slow enemies as well as give them less damage. So this is enemies affected by Hurricane, meaning it'll help your whole team depending on who you're getting hit by, as well as you could also increase the chance to make enemies vulnerable. But with the skills just selected here so far, you're going to be fighting vulnerable enemies quite often, and that's a 20% damage buff just like that. So you got your 20% damage buff and you got your 20% damage reduction. Awesome. Then, you can take Trample, you can knock back enemies, you can stun them, great CC, great damage reduction, and, good damage. And you can get your spirit back as well. So, there's a good ways to be tanky. Druids utilize Fortify very well. A lot of skills will benefit from Fortify as well. So you can also take Fortify, helps you tank, as well as helps you output more damage. Really great. And you have a ton of skills to choose from to either become more tanky or do more damage, but there is such great synergies with the Druid that you can use to combine tankiness and damage per second. So in this example, I selected a lot of Fortify bonuses. I have a lot of other builds that I've gone over that do a ton of damage as well as give you a ton of damage reduction and tankiness. In this example, we have Grizzly Rage here. You're going to be unstoppable, you're going to be constantly gaining Fortify, and you'll be able to still output a lot of these bonuses for your teammates. So that's very great. And then something like this, you get more bonuses, the synergies with either shapeshifting or earth skills or storm skills or anything really. The Druid has so much versatility, synergies, and using the aspects will just give you a ton of options. So I do have a lot of nice builds that I've gone over, and the synergies here with the items, even the non-unique items, are just amazing. The output potential, stack damage very well. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I think that Druids are going to be definitely the strongest or near the strongest in the game, with tankiness as well as damage output. So you're definitely going to want to either play Druid, give it a chance, or play with a friend that is playing Druid, because they are definitely going to help. Obviously, there are other classes that will help your team. Barbarian, for one, they have shouts and war cries, ton of good buffs and debuffs for yourself, as well as outputting damage and helping your team. So keep that in mind. I would definitely play with a Druid and a Barbarian in my party and definitely be pushing through those mobs, no problem, and those bosses. So let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of content has been coming out that Druids are now good. I knew that all along. Come on, baby. I mean, the one thing that people were right about is that leveling experience is not great, and that's true. You need the aspects to really make the Druid pop, but every endgame build is going to have a full build of aspects, so don't consider that as an issue. Obviously, endgame Druid, or even just late game Druid, by the time you're finishing that campaign, you'll have a good set of aspects that keep you strong and very viable. And at that point, you're comparing apples to apples, and the builds are going to be very even. You might get to that point a little bit slower, but especially if you're in a party of 4, those Druid buffs are going to help a ton and help your teammates, and you are going to be pushing through very fast. So definitely give a Druid a chance, and I look forward to seeing you guys playing the game soon.